Hello and welcome back to the iSmack MMA podcast, fresh off of UFC 300, the biggest card that we've ever predicted on this show. Probably the biggest card in UFC history. But before we jump into anything that happened in that card, make sure that you follow us, subscribe, comment, like, whatever you can on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube. We're all over. Just help us out. We really appreciate it. But Alex, we both came away pretty big winners from this card. We were counting it up just before 10-3 for both of us.
Yeah. How about it, right? We
I
shine in
know.
the biggest moments, I guess.
Yeah, well,
That's
but the two losses that stick in my brain from anybody in this card are the two that I wanted to lose the least, which was Justin and
and
Cody
Charles. Oh.
for me.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cody Garbrandt and Gaethje, like legitimately two of my top four fighters in the company. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Justin, that will scar me for the rest of my life.
I was trying to think of like if I've ever seen a more like violent knockout in my time of watching MMA, and like that might be it. And I know
That
recency bias is like a factor and stuff, but like what like I was at like a watch party and the whole room was just like going ballistic, dude. It was crazy.
Here's the thing, that knockout was the second most scary knockout in like the last 6 months.
All right, you talking about Emmett and Bryce
Yes.
Mitchell? Yeah.
That's still above it just because he didn't hit him in a knockout spot. He hit him straight in the middle of his forehead. And it
Yeah.
was the first fight thrown or the first punch thrown in the fight. That's the only reason I give it to. But like pure visuals, what happened to Gaethje, and we'll talk about it. But like that was horrifying. I think I texted you saying that that was a felony after it
It
happened.
was. It was. That
But
was
yeah,
like
it was.
that gave Gaethje a an extra chromosome.
Yeah, the dude. Which maybe he'll act a little bit more like a normal human now because he's always kind of been a little off kilter. But yeah, no, sorry, I know I'm a little jumbled, but this is what's happening in my brain after watching that fight. Um, Kudos to him, I guess, for being able to like stand and get his legs back immediately after. Like
I I don't think he knew where he was.
he probably didn't, but he didn't look shaky. Well, like with Bryce, for example, when they were having him walk out of the octagon, you remember all the commentary team like screaming at them that he's going to like tear an ACL because you cannot
Yeah.
walk like that. But Justin looked of reasonable body. I don't know about his mind. So that was a shock, I guess.
Yeah. Now it's just got the postcard depression setting in when
Yeah.
you realize that like that's the best night of fights you're gonna see for the next like several years.
Yeah. And for, let's see, it took them 8 years between 200 and 300. It'll probably take them six or
Yeah.
seven to get to 400.
They said on the broadcast they said 2032 will be 400.
God, yeah. And that's what if they do one every month.
Yeah. That would make sense about.
Yeah, hold on. Let me, dude, what is 100 divided by 12? Yeah, eight and a quarter year or eight and a third year.
Okay. Yeah. So
So,
late 2032.
God. Well, and boy, maybe Jim Miller show up for that one too. Um, all right, let's jump into some of this news before we get into the card. For one, it got announced shortly after we finished uploading last week's that the UFC is going to do gold gloves for title fights. Um, they had
Those
this
things are
big.
hideous.
Yeah, they're so ugly. But they made like a big deal about like we're announcing new gloves, and everybody was like, "Sweet, they're gonna expand it a little bit on your fingers so it's less eye pokes." And they're like, "No, we're just gonna make them shiny." Um, Couple questions. One, who thought this was a good idea? Two, why didn't they debut them at 300?
I'm not sure actually. I feel like it would make sense to do that, but
Yeah, you debuted
maybe you
on your
just don't
special
want to throw
shorts.
off you don't want to throw off the vibes going into such a big card. I don't know.
Dude, everybody was walking around in tie-dye shorts. Like they let the new shorts rock. Like if you're
Max
gonna
Holloway shorts were definitely the hardest out of all of them.
Alex looks so goofy in his,
Yeah. Alex
but
didn't look good. Wei
um,
Lee's were pretty cold too though.
yes. Stand by Bryce's being the best shorts.
Yeah. Well,
because
he's the one who got the ball rolling on that. So
and I know you're not gonna care necessarily about this, but I hope they give Patty orange shorts because he did wear orange a lot in was it Cage Fighters or wherever he came from previous. He used to wear orange shorts almost exclusively. So I hope they let him have those. If we're gonna full out, like don't just limit it to like the champs. Let it go throughout the company.
yeah, I don't understand why you wouldn't let fighters just wear custom shorts. Like just have them show their personality a little bit more. I think it's great. I think it's really cool.
On the bright side, Jones can just keep white ones.
Jones will be in orange ones, dude.
Well, I mean white because of cocaine, but uh
Oh, I was saying orange because
yeah,
he might be going to jail for,
yeah,
trying
the
to kill
black and white
someone.
stripes. That would be a hilarious turn of events if he gets another UFC fight and they put him in black and white stripes. But yeah, back to the gold gloves. They are not pretty. Now maybe it's a situation of when they get in the cage they'll look better because that I mean like some of the shorts were kind of that way for me. I thought some of them were kind of average like Wei Lee's, and then I saw him in the octagon. I was like, okay, that actually works.
Yeah,
Uh, but I do not have high hopes for that at all.
I don't either. And if you're gonna announce new gloves, and they still like were promoting some like redesign stuff with how the gloves worked, what is the downside to preventing eye pokes? Like we saw it again in the Gaethje fight too. Like that was a big factor. Obviously, the Weidman fight a couple weeks ago, it was a big problem. Like I just fighter safety first and foremost. Like it's already violent enough. You don't need people poking each other in the eye and making it worse than it already is.
A
You know?
1000%. Well, and like I think the argument traditionally, at least, against those types of gloves that do go a little bit higher up on your fingers is that it's harder to grapple. But it's like at this point, if you're a high level grappler, losing that
It's
little bit
not
of
going to
your
make a
fingers,
difference.
right? It's going to be very minimal, especially if you give them time. Like let's say that they change the glove system again and they do bring it up to that, just let them know a couple months in advance before you make the switch. Let people train with it.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah, here we are. And then bit of fight news that's not directly tied to 300. We said we would not talk about Conor McGregor and Mike Chandler anymore until it got announced. Well, it has now officially been revealed. We know pretty much what we're thinking about this fight. We know that it's been an annoying process. Conor is still like for some reason he was making fun of Tom Aspinall on Twitter.
I didn't see that. He
He
was probably just hammered.
Did you see that video or not that picture rather of Aspinall like staring at Alex and Alex is like out of focus?
Oh yeah, I did see that. Pretty
Connor
cold.
Connor quote tweeted it and just said potato head. So maybe he's going to go up to light heavyweight with the help of his good friend Ball. But um, I don't know what he was trying to get at with that. Still not talking about Chandler.
Yeah. He's just that's just what he does now. Is get in other people's business, but at least the fight was announced. At least Michael Chandler is gonna get his bag. Um
Finally,
yeah, so happy for him. I think it'll be entertaining. It'll be a good fight. Like McGregor moves the needle.
yeah,
It'll be a big deal. It's International Fight Week, so hopefully that ends up being a pretty good card. Couple others that were announced for 302, which I was pretty interested in, was Dustin is officially fighting Islam. We talked about it last week, so we don't need to say much here. And then Paulo Costa, Sean Strickland, I think will be a very good one too.
yeah.
Our boy Paulo Costa. So
Yes, and also to a lesser extent, our boy Sean Strickland, because we were actively like kind of parading a little bit whenever he won the title.
I mean, yeah, it's more. I feel like it says less about Strickland as it does about Izzy just being like a cringe human being.
Yes.
Like it's I've been clear that like Sean is not my he says some like crazy stuff and sometimes it's funny, but he also like says some pretty
Yeah.
whack shit. So
He crosses over with Jake Shields a little bit too much on some
yeah.
things.
Yeah.
But I mean, like there was absolutely like a 2 month stretch where MMA as a whole was kind of Strickland mania. Like whenever he
Yeah.
came out of his house to
Oh
stop
yeah.
that dude that was robbing the person, and the Nina stuff. Like I don't know, he got a lot of traction. Did you see Mookie pop up over there?
Yeah.
There she is.
Just the tail.
Yeah, she's investigating. But either way, he has been a very important figure to the sport. So like for Paolo to get that fight right now
Yeah.
is certainly fun.
Yeah. But that's pretty much the biggest news to come out of the last week outside of course the fights. And we'll get going right into the main event. This one hurts me a little bit, but
Dude,
uh how sick was Alex Pereira waving off Herb Dean and then not even, I want to say 10 seconds, 15 seconds later, putting Jamal Hill to sleep. That was crazy.
dude, well, in that punch that he landed, being pretty much just skimming his head, and
Hmm.
like that is horrifying. I think we're in the vicinity now where we can legitimately question if Alex is a harder puncher than Francis.
Well, that's what I was actually talking with some of my friends from home about this on Saturday morning before the fight started. I will send like all of my picks in the group chat um and get some discourse going. One of my buddies was saying how Alex has Alex is a death machine, and I was like, yeah, but Jamal Hill, he's got good wrestling, and Alex hasn't shown that he's really capable of putting up with that when he's put in those positions. But at the same time, his power is the great equalizer. And now we're seeing that he might be a terrible wrestler for his entire career, and it might not matter
Yeah,
because that dude is such he like you were alluding to, shook my computer for a sec,
right.
but yeah, he might be the heaviest hitter in the UFC. Might be a heavier hitter than Francis Ngannou, period. Which is just so wild.
Right. And we pretty much thought that that was not ever going to happen because Francis is Francis. But to know that a dude, because I think it was whenever he was a middleweight, broke Francis's punch record like by a lot on that one machine. I'm not going to be able to think of the name of it. And now that he's at light heavy, very clearly translated, looks like he probably got even stronger because, again, he legitimately had Jamal's whole world destroyed off of like a skim across his eyebrow.
Yeah. And how, like, looking at it now, how did he ever make middleweight, dude?
Dude, he walks around at 400 pounds,
I
like, and he
cannot
looks,
believe that he was able to get down to 85.
and it's worth mentioning, he looks the exact same.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where this weight is going or like what weight he's losing because it doesn't like he's not a thick like dude, you know, like he's not chubby.
Yeah.
Um, so like it's just like it's almost like he's just manipulating the scale to say whatever he wants because he never looks any different. He never really looks that drained.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I was gonna say too. Is like every time he made middleweight in the UFC, I never looked at him and was like, oh my God, like this looks like a terrible cut for him.
right, this is a rag and bones individual right now. No, he always looked fine. Um, so yeah, and now he says he might want a shot at heavyweight. Um, I would rather he stick around in light heavy for at least a fight or two and defend that belt and then go up. But I mean, how can you say no to him versus Sergey or him versus Tom or like the options are endless there.
Yeah, and I think it would be wise for him to kind of uh yeah, stick around at light heavyweight and just kind of wait for the John Jones scenario to run its course a little bit and just have one champion and not a interim champion waiting that's not going to end up fighting the champion. It's just like it's kind of a mess there right now, so I think it would be smart for him to get a few more rubies on the belt at light heavy. And at this point, it's tough for me to envision who in that division can beat him right now because I thought Jamal Hill was going to be the best challenger, to be honest.
I did too, and I guess maybe Yuri. again, just because like Yuri's chin is what it is, and he just doesn't quit. Like that's probably your best chance. And we've seen him now multiple times come out of the woodworks to get a finish. Um, so I guess that's oh, and trust me, we'll talk about that. But I guess he's still technically the best challenge they got. But do you really want to see it again this soon after? Like light heavyweight's just one a weird division, so I get not hanging around that long.
Yeah, I think it'll be Ankalaev next for him. It'll probably be him, and he presents his own unique challenges. But I, at this point, I've picked against Pereira too many times. At this point, I'm not making that mistake until further notice. So
He is to you what Charles was to me.
yeah.
Because his title fight, and then I don't know that I ever predicted him to win while he was champion or in the midst of becoming champion. Because I'm
hmm
almost certain I had Mike, Dustin, Justin, and Islam.
I I had Justin, or I had Dustin rather for sure. I don't know. I don't remember the others. But yeah, it is
Yeah.
what it is. You live and you learn. That's what it was. That was just Pereira being a menace. That was all it was.
You know what I hope UFC referees learn? That when somebody can't stand up on their own power whenever the round ends, he's probably in the fight. And that's what we saw in Zhang Weili's fight against Yan Jianan. At the end of the first, Weili had very clearly choked her unconscious, and then Zhang Jianan could not get up. And then they were like, "Okay, let's give her some smelling salts and keep this thing rolling."
That was insane. Dude, I was so pissed. I bet on Whaley to win by finish. I sent my brother a lay that was winning, and that was the last leg. And Whaley to finish the fight was the last leg, and it lost because of that. I
I don't
was pissed.
I don't know if this is going to reach the level that GSP's Vaseline massage reached in terms of like controversy. Because obviously I wasn't a fan at that point, but I've heard plenty of like whenever he was in the corner for whatever fight that was, his cornerman giving him a massage directly after he'd put the Vaseline on and made him slippier, kind of allowed him to win that fight. I don't know that it's going to get up to that level of controversy, but it should because they essentially brought a fighter back from the dead, and then all the kudos in the world to Jan, but like she ended up going all 5 rounds after that. But it's like the fight was over. What are we doing?
The fight was over twice. In the
Yes,
second round, Whaley again had her turtled and was just bashing her head on the canvas.
yes.
Like that one upset me a lot. Whaley deserved to finish there. I deserved money. Um but still it really is like a testament just to how much better Whaley is than everyone else right now. She is so freaking good. She is so good.
Well, now it's at the point where it's you're almost going to enter the Izzy territory where it's like, do you just keep doing rematches or do you pull up Darren Till? You know what I mean? Like, or do you dive deep into this division just to have a fresh face, like Steve Ursich?
Yeah. Well, the
Like
next the next one for her is going to be her biggest test because Tatiana's lurking.
she is, but I'm
Tatiana is
still at the point
lurking.
where I'm not that worried.
I mean, it seems like in Whaley's last couple fights, like she's gone way more wrestle heavy. She's gone with a way more wrestling heavy approach. Like she out wrestled Carla Esparza, which
Yes.
by standards in that division is probably the best of the best. Uh, outside of Tatiana Suarez, who also beat her. Um, so that will be super interesting. I hope that's the next fight at strawweight. I think it'll be super interesting to see if Weili is at the level of grappling that Suarez is. I think Weili definitely has her in the striking category. And real quick, like Yao Xiaonan was better than Weili, I think, as on the feet.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I yeah. Like that, like gotta give her credit where it's due. It's not her fault that they gave her smalts and didn't stop the fight. That's not on her. She came back and fought and gave her problems on the feet, but yeah, Whaley's ability to just adjust mid fight is super impressive, and it seems like her grappling has gotten so much better over the years.
1,000%. And like you said, hopefully the next fight is Tatiana, and we do get a little bit more meat on the bone as far as like the prediction and the hype of it, because that could be like a legitimately hyped up fight. And women's divisions across the board right now are starting to see more of those, which is awesome because
Yeah.
those divisions are starting to come to life now.
Well, I think it's just more fighters are, or they're just bringing in better talent, and more female fighters rather are getting into just the sport in general. And so
Yeah.
with that, you're gonna get higher quality fights. The women's divisions have only been around for the flyweight and strawweight have only been around for what, like 6, 7 years. I think bantamweight was the first one in like 14, 13.
Yeah.
Took a couple years to get the other two in. So it's still in a relative sense very new. So it is cool, like you said, to see it growing and bringing in these bigger stars on
No,
that
thousand
on that
percent.
side of the sport.
Oh yeah, big time. We already talked about this fight a little bit, but we've just to keep in pace. Max Holloway is, for one, he got knocked down. Like before I shower him with love and affection, why are we not counting that?
Did they not count it?
No, he has still never been knocked down.
That is interesting.
For everything that fight was, Justin Gaethje deserves the recognition of being the first man to make Max fall down. Like,
I did not know that. That's
yes,
shocking, actually.
yeah, that was credited with zero knockdowns. But
That is
that
shocking.
said, Max is a freak. Ilya looks terrified. Um,
Ilya,
Ilya looked like he saw ghosts. Like that was like a my life's in danger kind of stare. Now, granted, it might have been a situation where he didn't know he was on camera, because he did kind of look lost. Like he was like, "Damn, that's not what I expected to happen." Like, and did not look happy with the result. But I also think he would have played it up a bit more if he'd have known he was on cam.
but that's also the most genuine reaction that you're gonna get. He
True.
did not look pleased about that, about what Max did. And God, that was just so badass. Pointing to the cage, you're up 4-0 in this fight. Also, did you see that 38-38 scorecard going into the fifth?
Yeah, I don't know who did that, but
I don't want to go into another judge's rant, but I just wanted to give that recognition for being so stupid.
yeah, that's atrocious.
You are an idiot, sir.
Yeah,
But
that is embarrassing.
um so Max up 4-0 going into the fifth round. He's winning the fifth round, and this dude gives Justin Gaethje essentially a chance to win the fight
Yes.
with 10 seconds left, 15 seconds left. They're swinging, and like we talked about earlier, like one of the best knockouts we will ever see in our lives.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
It was like if you remember, I don't remember who it was that Cody was facing, but whenever Garbrandt like at the buzzer did his duck and brought the right hook around, it was that on steroids because it was after a significantly better fight, after a significantly better performance by Max at the 1 second mark, folded Justin Gaethje like a lawn chair. Like it was disgusting.
And that
Uh,
doesn't happen to Justin Gaethje.
no, no, Justin, in literally it being any other fighter, if he gets hit with that punch, he probably stumbles back a little bit and like gets stuck on his back heel, but he doesn't just fall face first like a dead body.
Yeah, and Max now has a couple of those because he did that against in the Korean Zombie retirement fight too.
Yes.
Like where just throwing caution to the wind and getting the better of those exchanges and delivering with like something that we are going to remember for the rest of our lives. Like you are going to remember. I mean,
Yeah.
we're of course we're going to remember where we were at for UFC 300, but that's the fight that's the finish that people will remember the most from that.
Yes. 1,000%. Like that was when you say UFC 300, you're going to remember that's going to be the first image in your mind. Or it might be second to the Alex
Yeah.
this thing,
I
but just for meme purposes, not
yeah.
for like for actual like, oh my God, I just saw that. It's 1,000% that knockout.
Mhm. Yeah. So shout out to those guys. Bonus well deserved for both of them. Max getting the double bonus was cool. Before we get into the Charles fight, I will say I was a little disappointed that there weren't more 300K bonuses given out.
Yeah.
It's not surprising because Dana loves to like not give fighters what they deserve. I thought
Yes.
I thought Alex deserved a bonus for sure.
Yeah.
Um Moicano deserved a bonus. Like
Moicano, Figgy,
Figgy, like
Aljo, because Aljo didn't get one, did he?
Aljo, you think Aljo deserved a bonus?
Aljo dominated Calvin.
Bro, that fight was the most boring one of the card.
He still
He
dominated
still
it.
dominated. He still dominated, but you can't crotch sniff for 15 minutes. I I don't think Aljo deserved a bonus at all. I think he's probably the fighter who won that least deserved a bonus, to be honest. I
I
thought
personally would have. Did Kayla get one? Because Kayla also should have gotten
Kayla
one.
did not get one. Kayla 100% deserved a bonus.
Yeah. Like
Like,
I just based on like a okay, yeah, he very clearly is good enough for this weight class. I would have given one to Aljo. But I
I
understand what
think
you're
we
saying.
knew that already. And it's not like Cater is like one of the best guys in the division. Like he's a fun guy, but he was ranked 8th. Like
Yeah.
let's not over, you know, let's not give too much credit, you know? Like
Yeah.
Aljo looked very good, but it wasn't against a guy who is going to be competing for the title maybe ever,
No. And
you
yeah,
know?
that's fair. I just again, it was one of those things where it was like, oh, okay. Like it was a real like I was still kind of concerned about his size in relativity, and that put that away for me pretty quick. But I understand what you're saying. They definitely skimped on the bonuses, where this just should have been a night to shower everyone with money.
Yeah, because they made so much.
All right, for the next up one we got is Charles versus Armin. It was a very good fight. Um, but I wanna hear your take on it because I know a lot of people are saying that Armin was saved because his pants fell off. And it kind of gave him that leverage to get out of it. I'm not of that belief, but I know you're a big Charlie Olives guy, so
Yeah, I'm not of that belief either, to be honest. Like I'm obviously disappointed because I wanted Charles to win, and I think that was a fight that he could have won. But at the end of the day, for me, it was like he had him in those two subs. He just ran out of time. That's how it goes. Uh, Split decision, I think, was a very worthy final result. And the only round that was definitive in that fight was round two, and that went to Armin. And for me, it's like, all right, if 1 and 3 are a toss up, you give one to each of them in a perfect world, and Armin wins that fight. And it's like I just can't be too mad about it. There was an opportunity for Charles to win. There was a chance that he did win rounds 1 through 3, but that's not one that I'm going to be pressed over in the long run. It
I
sucks, but
my two big takeaways from this was one, this was the best outcome for that weight class. Because
yeah,
now Armin has a signature win in his pocket while Charles doesn't just circle the drain. And two, Armin might be the strongest individual in that weight class. There was one point where I think it was in the first, Charles was on top of him, and he just kind of like shifted his hips and like just picked him up. and like flipped him over. And I was like, well, that shouldn't be able to happen. Um, he is freakishly strong.
He is, but when you look at what Islam did to Charles, like
I
Islam,
guess
there's Islam is a freak of nature.
he is.
Armin is not in that tier. Islam already has a win over Armin too. So
Well, and
like
I'm not saying that he'll beat Islam. I'm just saying that I think he is the pound for pound strongest individual in that weight class.
I think it's
Islam
still
has more
Islam.
skill, has more, is obviously very strong himself. Just kind of what I saw in that fight.
It was yeah. It was I definitely overrated Armin. Or underrated rather. Underrated Armin. But yeah, like you said, I think it's a good outcome. Like that's not gonna I know Charles is kind of nearing the end of his career, like he's almost 35. Like, but that's not a loss that's gonna banish him from ever coming back to win a title. I think if that fight was 5 rounds, it could have been a lot different. I think if he fights Armin 10 times, it's probably gonna be 5-5. Like Charles is like he is Islam's 1A, and for the longest time, Charles is 1B. Maybe it's Armin now, but what we do know is that everyone else in that top 5 has been cleaned out by Charles already. So he'll have a chance to get back. It's just gonna take a little longer.
Yeah, 1,000%. You need fresh blood. So I am again happy that Armin did what he did. But yeah, it doesn't diminish anybody for me. Still, it just adds another layer to that weight class, and that's all you can hope for.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Bo Nickel fought Cody Brundage.
yeah.
All right,
That
and
did
then
happen.
Yuri took on Alexander Rakic. Do you just want to? Is that fine?
I'm just laughing.
Is that okay? Can we just do that?
Yeah.
I do not care. Like I have no interest, dude. All right, so Yuri fought Alexander Rakic. Classic Yuri. The stuff that's making him a legend just didn't care about his legs. Pretty much that brother's not gonna be able to walk in like 5 years.
Yeah, and I saw something on Twitter, I think that was like Yuri is following the Tony Ferguson arc where as soon as his athleticism is gone, it's it's gonna go downhill fast for him. So we really just need to appreciate what we have in Yuri right now because he is so exciting and he might not be the best, but he did get his title, so he's gonna have that legacy um accolade when it's all said and done. But yeah, we just got to enjoy Yuri fights while he is still in his athletic prime.
Yeah, while he's still a functioning human. Also, I cannot say how much I genuinely hate the whole build to this fight being Alexander being like, "You're not a samurai." And Yuri's like, "Yes, I am. Quit it." And he's like, "You're not a samurai." Like that's all the fight was. And then he got his press conference and said samurai 28 times and left.
Did
Like
you
that
see
was
the video of Yuri standing by himself outside of T-Mobile Arena on Friday night? I love
oh,
him.
dude, I love that man so incredibly much. But like I could have done without the I'm not a samurai, but I live with the samurai. Like I could have
That's
done
just
without
him though.
that.
That's like it's not ingenuine. Like that is just like Yuri in his lifestyle. And he's just like a different dude.
Yeah, that's all he knows anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it cracked me up because like even in the hype package that they ran prior to that, like the whole thing was them talking about samurai. It's like stop. But yeah, I'm just happy that he came from behind, got that finish. Still a good fight for Rakic. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
anybody but Yuri and he wins.
I did want to talk about him. I think if he fights Yuri again, like that is a winnable fight.
Yep.
Rakic lost that fight because he got reckless. To be
Yes.
honest, he was dominating.
Yeah,
Like
he could
that
he could
was
have
a
coasted.
come from behind in the like highest regard for Yuri. Like Rakic was dominating through 2 rounds. And if he just stayed a little more contained and um just deliberate, like that was a Rakic win. And he had Yuri on the ropes. Like he hit him with some good shots. I know you saw that elbow that Yuri just stood up and took. Like
Yeah.
that was crazy. But Rakic looked really good. I don't think that loss really knocks him down that much. It seems like he'll probably be hanging around the top 3 for a while. He'll probably eventually get a title shot as well. Um, and that was his first fight back from a serious injury too.
Yeah.
So like I it's not as bad of an outcome for Rakic as um maybe some other fighters in the division.
Yeah. I wouldn't even define it as a bad fight. Like I would consider that a net positive for Rakic. He just knows that he can't do what Max did and pretty much be like, okay,
Right.
let's get wild here.
Because
That's not his
that's
game.
exactly where Yuri thrives, and that's what we were talking about last week too. Is
Yeah,
Rakic needed to be measured, and he was until he wasn't, and then he lost. But
right.
when he was, controlling the fight, it was his. He had it in the bag.
Yeah, 1,000%. Um, we've briefly talked about this one because of the bonus situation, but Aljo and Cater, um, the fight was never close.
No,
It was, I mean, Aljo came up, held him down, and said, I'm a featherweight now. Deal with it," and got his decision win.
yeah, and before I said it was boring, which it wasn't. Like I would have liked to see Aljo maybe go for a sub a little more.
Yeah,
Uh, because it didn't seem like he was having his way. He was 100% having his way. Um, but yeah, this fight proved that he 100% belongs. When you fight a guy like Calvin Kattar and you're a former champ in the lower weight class, that's the performance that you need to be considered for the high level fights at featherweight, and I think he'll get them. I think if he ever gets to the point of fighting Ilya, I think that'll be really interesting if he can kind of avoid what Ilya is throwing at him. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, that was it. In terms of the dominance. You couldn't have asked for any more out of Aljo.
yeah. It was it's like when Gilton moved up to heavy. It's like it's not exactly what's going to sell tickets, but it's what you need to see to be like, okay, this guy is fine here. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
does the
good
job.
win for Aljo. That's all I gotta
Another
say.
another big, I guess, debut since Aljo debuted at welter. Kayla Harrison, dude, as advertised.
And more.
Yeah,
That was a clinic.
yeah. Well,
That
and
was
I
a
remember we were texting about it. I didn't know she was as like well spoken as she is. Like she's kind of like a Mike Chandler type where it's like she offers a fun fight feel, definitely a higher ceiling than Mike is at this point in his career, but um then she'll get on the mic and sounds like a total pro. You know, like it's just it's all well put together, but you have to focus on the fight game. And again, was never concerned for Kayla in this fight.
no. And what she's accomplished in combat sports like is just wild.
Yeah.
Like 2 judo Olympic gold medals at 172, goes down to 55 and dominates the PFL, goes down to 35 in her first fight, never misses a beat.
Nope.
And now she's gonna get Nunes out of retirement.
She didn't
She's
call
gonna
Nunez
fight for
out,
the
but I saw
belt
that
next.
video.
She's
I
gonna
saw
fight for the belt next, and then Nunes is gonna come back, and that legitimately will be the biggest women's MMA fight
of
ever.
all time. Yeah. It will be the thing to finally surpass. Why? Because I don't even really want to say Rousey home because that fight in the moment wasn't that big. It was big because it was a Rousey fight. So
It,
maybe
I
Rousey
was gonna say
Nunes,
Rousey Nunes,
right?
maybe,
Or the second Tina Nunes fight.
and Nunes, yeah, like those,
They're all centered around Nunes is the point,
yeah,
and this is going to be the biggest of the bunch.
yeah, and yeah, Kayla is bigger than any of those other girls. I mean, Ronda was big in her own right, but it was more it was less about the skill, more about her demeanor. She had the McGregor effect
Yeah,
on women's MMA. But in terms of seeing the two best possible fighters in women's MMA history, that is it. And I think that will do huge numbers.
1,000%. But that is one of those fights that even if you are one of the fans that likes to hate on women's MMA for whatever reason, I don't know what benefit you get out of that. But if even if you are one of those, Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes, you absolutely buy that. And you buy
Yeah.
that as a main event, and you never ask any questions about it.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see Kayla fight for the title next, and even more excited for that. It's a little ways down the line, but you know it's coming, and it's gonna be it'll deliver for sure.
100%. This next one, Diego Lopez versus Sadiq Yusuf. The Diego show keeps on rolling.
Let's go, baby. And you were right, to be honest. I thought Yusuf would have given him some problems. That was never, never a doubt.
No, no, and because I'm starting to kind of figure out the UFC's formula for like these young dudes because they haven't really found a middle ground between this fight's too hard and he's got this in the bag. This fight very clearly read to me he's got this in the bag, especially with the momentum he's got. Um, it's just it's he's such a fun fighter. And
Yeah.
while I don't think he's ever going to be a champion, I love that he is in the company. I love that he is in the sport, and I love what he can provide to the sport.
Yeah, and he's a guy that can step into like that Justin Gaethje role that he's held down, the Michael Chandler, like
Exactly.
just guys that you are gonna want to see every time they step into the cage. Like Charles Oliveira
Yeah.
too. Like I know Charles Oliveira was a champion, obviously, but that same level of this fight's happening, it is must watch television.
He could be an elite level Michel Pereira
Yes.
because like Michel, you watch the fights because you're like, oh, this dude's awesome and it's fun, but
Mhm.
he's doing it at such a high caliber. That's exactly what I hope we get for Diego, and what it looks like we're on track for because the kid's electric.
Yeah. That was really, really cool. And
Yeah,
the mullet was mulleting, dude. Did you
dude.
see that? That
Yeah,
thing was flowing.
he objectively looks hilarious, which I think adds to it because like
Oh yeah.
he doesn't have to be a serious, buzz cut, super angry, whatever. He's just out there having a good time.
And
And
that's what the fans will always gravitate towards is like the
yeah,
guys who are genuinely like who are themselves and are just genuinely like fun people like Michelle Pajeda, like like Justin Gaethje, like
even your Stricklands and your O'Malley's and your
Costas.
yeah, yeah, dude. You grab a hold of the fans by being yourself, as so long as yourself is entertaining,
Yeah,
and that's exactly what he is.
it's awesome.
It really
Good
is.
for him.
1,000%. Jalen Turner, speaking of Sean O'Malley, tried to do the old Sugar Show and walk off the KO, and then abruptly got stopped.
I don't know why he walked that off. It's not like he knocked him down. Moicano was not out though.
No,
Like never for a
I don't.
second.
I think maybe he just didn't like see it clearly. You know what I mean? Like he felt him going down. He's like, oh, it's wraps. Because that's the only thing you can say. Otherwise, he just started celebrating, like not even whenever he was about to cross the finish line, like right before he started the race.
Yeah. And he looked at the ref like, "Why didn't you stop this fight?" What do you mean? Why didn't you stop this fight? Like
Because he's awake.
you're trained to as soon as you put someone down until the ref stops you, you go for the finish, and it cost him. And I will say like it it might just be because it was Jalen Turner and Jalen Turner presents his own challenges. But Moicano, anytime he got touched, it was he reacted big. Like I remember Turner opened the fight with a body kick and immediately hurt him. He got knocked down in that first round. Like his ability to take those shots concerns me moving forward. But at the end of the day, like that dude is such a good grappler that As long as he doesn't get his lights put out, he will always be in a fight.
I will say one of my biggest pet peeves about MMA is whenever Rogan's interviewing fighters and they're like, "Be on, invite me to the podcast. I love you, Joe." Like I genuinely just don't care. Like not because I dislike the podcast or anything like that. It's just I want to talk about fighting. I don't want to talk about a podcast, which is ironic for what we're doing right now. Um, but the funniest line I think of the whole night was Moicano saying, "The world wants for you to be on my podcast." Like, it was such funny delivery. I'm not gonna do the accent because I got a feeling this is the only accent I'm allowed to do. Um, but it was such a hilarious delivery and just Money Moicano on the mic. That's just
Yeah.
how he rolls. But that was objectively some of the funniest stuff that I had heard from the night because it was just so good.
Yeah, and I think Moicano is still kind of a like going into this card, he was still more of a guy that like hardcore MMA fans like love and adore. And I hope with that many eyes on that card and the promo that he gave afterwards, like that was just like you couldn't have drawn it up any better. That was
He
awesome.
he's deep cut Diego.
Yeah.
Like he's the Diego Lopez for like folks that watch Fight Night prelims. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Like
um,
I just hope a bigger audience of people like saw that and just became Moicano fans because he is like that guy is one of my favorite fighters. I love him. He is just another guy who is just a great personality. Like just so fun.
is being Brazilian the best base of being likable?
Yes. 100%. I
Because
I
like
don't think it's close. I
all
don't think there's a,
all the fun Brazilian or all the fun fighters right now are Brazilian.
and the thing is, like, it's even more impressive because a lot of them don't speak English either.
Yeah,
Like, you literally just love them because of like
vibes.
their actions and their demeanor. Like, you don't even know, you don't need to know what they're saying.
No,
Obviously, when they do speak English, it's better because you can understand like exactly what they're saying and not have a translator say it.
right.
But it's cool seeing guys like Moicano and Paulo Costa who have worked on learning English and now are able to connect in that different way and grow their fan base by doing that. But yeah, they don't. Alex Pereira doesn't speak a lick of English,
No,
and that dude is one of the most loved fighters in the promotion. It's awesome.
and Chama is like the natural
Yeah,
catchphrase of the sport now.
yeah,
Um, congrats to Brazil for being a good vibes country.
yes.
Speaking of Brazilians, Jessica Andrade versus Marina. Um, I want to go ahead and hear your thoughts because you're a lot more tied to a fighter in this. Like you like Andrade a lot more than like I predicted Marina. I prefer Marina in this. Not really like the biggest fan. So kind of what did you think about this one?
I thought it was close. I
Okay.
thought it was a close fight. I think it was the right decision. But yeah, this is what I expected. I expected this to be we're like we said last week. This is one of the closest fights on the card. That was one of the toughest ones for me to pick. But Marina was clearly like so technical, so measured in her striking attack. And Andrade is just a pit bull. Like she will go in and mess up your game plan, and that's exactly what she did.
You're almost better not having a game plan to face Andrade, but
Yeah,
in and of itself, that presents its own challenges. Andrade has more in the tank than I personally thought, which was my big takeaway from this. It was not a somebody going out, you know, on their last leg or moving towards their last leg at least. She still looks plenty capable.
yeah, and she is so strong.
Yeah.
For that size to be that strong is super impressive. She is so strong.
Yes. 1,000%.
Yeah.
Um, the penultimate one on our recaps here, just a hoss fight, just two old dudes going at it. How can you not be romantic about it? Bobby Green, Jim Miller, exactly what this card needed.
Yeah, 100%. And shocking that we didn't get a single retirement out of that either, by the
I
way.
know, or Cody for that matter, which we'll talk about in a sec. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
But no,
that was
that was like that could have been if Max and Justin didn't exist, that reasonably could have been fight of the night.
Jim
That
Miller
was a
just eating
awesome fight.
punches. Jim Miller just being, I mean, like just almost deformed and just like, I didn't hear the bell yet.
Well,
Just,
and I mean he still hit Bobby with some good shots
oh
too.
yeah.
Like Bobby was wearing it too.
Oh yeah. It's just Jim wearing it a little bit more, obviously,
Yeah.
and kind of led to the legacy, I guess, of him because he doesn't go down without a fight, and you got to be hyped for that to happen. But yeah, I don't know how you don't retire there.
I don't either, but that was a great fight. That was a great performance from Bobby Green. When he when he talks shit and backs it up, it's cool.
Yes. He's kind of filling the Diaz brothers role, not to their
Yeah.
level by any
Yeah.
means, but like he does kind of he's kind of the mouthpiece anymore, where it's just like I don't care. Like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hit you in the head really hard.
Did you see like that old graphic of Bobby Green when he was like 22 and it had the
Yes.
fighting style, it's fighting style hood.
Yes.
Like
Dude, speaking of, we haven't given it any attention to this point, but really, really liked them using the old logos and music. That was
badass.
such a smart way to
That was
do that.
awesome. Yeah.
Opening the card with the original UFC logo and the old chime. That
Yeah.
was, I mean, that was
That
just,
was cool.
yeah,
The production was a masterclass.
yeah, that was at 11.
That was amazing. And that's from two guys who work in,
Yes,
producing newscasts,
right,
producing television.
right. Those are
That
things that
was
we have to pay attention to for our jobs, and you can't.
those are things that we know more about than
Yes.
MMA.
Yeah, literally. Those are things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and both of us were like, "Oh my God, this was awesome."
Yeah. Yeah. They did a
Uh,
great job.
yeah, and then all right, let's jump into predictions. Uh,
You don't want to talk about
there wasn't another fight on this card. I don't know what you're talking about.
was there not another fight on the
Are you talking
card?
about Bo and Brundage? I know we skipped that.
I I think a certain two former champions did in fact. They opened up, I'm pretty sure. I think it was the
I,
first fight.
I hated that so much, dude.
At least he didn't get knocked out.
Yeah,
That's a win.
but at least let him go out on a shield. Like, stop taking him to the ground, dude. That's not what I want to see.
That's how you win.
It is, and we knew that that's probably what Figgy was gonna do. Like I can't hate on Figgy for trying to win a fight, like especially his debut at Bantam against a dude that he should beat. Like don't
Mhm.
play games, don't dilly dally, just get the win that you need. But yeah, of course it's gonna break my heart that we
Yeah.
open the card with Cody Garbrandt getting choked.
Well, and it's the same situation for Figgy as it is with Aljo, where if you want to champ in the lower weight class, you're moving up, you need to be pitching shutouts against guys that you should be.
Yes,
And that's what Figgy did. Like,
right. Yeah,
it's what he needed to do. I am sorry for your loss, but like that's Figgy did exactly what he needed to do. And he looked good.
he did, and it is what it is. It's what I prepared myself for coming into the fight, regardless of whatever I said on podcast. I was actively waiting for Cody. Well, honestly, I thought Cody was going to get starched, just as like a make an impression type of thing. Um, but it is what it is. At least he was part of the event. It was
That's
about
what
all I
yeah.
can say.
It's cool that he was and he was fighting a very like one of the greats. Like he at least you won't have the image of him getting knocked out like the Kai Car France fight
Yeah,
in your eyes.
very true. All right, now we have no card this upcoming weekend, but we do have a card after that. Um, so we're gonna go ahead and do our predictions for this card. Just since they fan it out a little bit, we've got Ariane Lipski versus Karini Silva. Um, I'll just go ahead and throw this one out. I think this is an awesome fight. I'm
Yeah.
very into the booking of this one. Karini's just a different animal right now.
I love her.
Hard to bet
I
against somebody who is, what is it, like six straight submission wins?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, Lipsky is definitely her toughest challenge yet.
oh yeah,
But I
but
love
yeah,
Karine Silva.
I've got her by sub probably in like the third. Um, but eventually I do think it catches up to Lipsky.
Yeah. Well, Silva's right now on her Shavkat run
Yeah,
of only finishes. And so again, until further notice, I will take her to finish this fight. But that's and we talked about talented fighters coming up in the women's weight classes. Karina Silva is like prime example of that. Like she isn't a star yet, but I think she will be for sure.
100%. It's just written all over. You know
Hmm.
she's going to be an impact player.
Yeah.
And then the main event of the card is Mateusz Nicolau versus Alex Perez. Very easy one for me to predict here. Nicolau, I understand his last fight it wasn't exactly what you wanted, but um, I still think he could be like a top five, top seven dude at some point. Don't get that from Alex Perez.
Yeah, Alex Perez also taking this fight on short notice. He lost not that long ago either. I This is just all the ingredients are there for Nicolau to win this fight. Perez is just past his prime.
Yeah,
He's just old.
I've got a double submission prediction here. I've got Nicolau getting by sub as well.
Yeah, and Nicolau will do that to you. I'll go with you on that. I'll go with you on that.
Sweet. Yeah, dude. What a weekend of fights. I so my Saturday went, I was out shopping with my girlfriend, and then we went and watched Dune 2.
How
And
was it?
then oh, so good.
I
So
haven't
good.
seen it yet. Still, I need to.
Yes. I don't even know if it's showing anymore, but such a good movie, dude. Um but finished that at like 4. We left the theater and then came home and just sat on the couch and waited for UFC. Like just like a child, like just hands in my
Yeah,
lap, just
I was like all week. Last week was the longest week ever waiting for Saturday. Like I was so pumped, so pumped, and it
well,
delivered. I'm glad
yeah,
that it delivered.
and now it's gone.
Yeah. Now we
Um,
have to wait until 2032.
yeah. Well, so that's the end of the podcast. We will be back in 8 years. Dude, if this or if slash when I guess because everything's inevitable. Whenever this podcast ends, it has to be like on a big note. It cannot be Mateusz Nicolau versus Alex Perez as our
Yeah.
last predictions.
Yeah. No,
Um,
we got to go out on top.
yes, 100%. Um,
Hopefully, very far down the line, though.
yes, worth mentioning. Um, and this is just workshop stuff. We can talk about this after the fact, but we could do like a matchmaker or some kind of like specialty episode, not next week, but the week after, because 20 or 301 is still 2 weeks after this Nicolau Perez card.
No, it's 1 week after the Nicolau Perez card.
301's on May 4th.
Yeah. Nicolau and Perez is the 27th.
Oh, okay, never mind. I got my time.
Well, we can do it after 301,
That
maybe.
might be a good shout. But all right, sweet. You got anything else?
I'm all set.
All right, sounds good. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks' time.